Here's something black people have known for a couple of 100 years. Niggas are crazy. Now, black people don't like to talk about crazy niggas in public because white people may be listening, but I'm afraid the secret might be out.
It's about the love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. Yeah, it's about the love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. You can't make a change unless you got the love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. You can't make a change unless you got some love change. Do it with some soul and a little love change. We started from the bottom, talking about the roots. Every time I'm in the booth, I gotta shoot the truth. My art is my art. It ain't no shame from it. I'm feeling like Kunta, they'll never take my name from it.
It's another Tuesday, recording live from the closet. We're here once again, y'all, to discuss episode 2 of the Boondocks. This week we're getting into R. Kelly, the Pied Piper of R&B.
Sorry, when that line came up in the episode, it just, considering everything that has now come to light and like surviving R. Kelly and all of that shit, like calling him the Pied Piper of R&B, where he would play his music and little girls would follow him, it's so fucking creepy. Like I got like shivers thinking about it.
It's extremely creepy, and it's like somebody pointed that out, and the fact that he said it in the song, and they're like, "Oh my God, yes, that's what his whole thing was. His whole plan was this entire time."
Mm-hmm. He almost got away with it too. I mean, like I remember when I was a teenager, I was the same age as Aaliyah. She was literally like 3 weeks older than me. So like when she hit the scene, I thought she was the coolest shit because she looked like me, which was the real first representation of kind of a lighter skin, Black woman up there, doing her thing. And then I was wait, she's 15 and married to who? And that
I just always thought it was kind of creepy. Like, I don't know if you guys remember a Video Soul appearance that they had together, and they were both dressed in like, remember when like Bugs Bunny, like all that clothing was hella big, like pop Bugs Bunny. So they both had on matching outfits. And I remember thinking like, that's just a little weird, like just the vibe. But I also, we'd always also heard about the rumors, but we didn't live in today's world with the internet.
Right.
So it's like you heard about it and then it was kind of gone.
It was weird, but you didn't hear it every day. And so it just became kind of the back of your mind. You knew. You're like, that guy creeps me out. And I don't quite remember why or know why. But
then, the music took over. I'm not even going to lie. Like, you just kind of ignored it. Or I think it was more back then, like, you always knew girls that were dating older men. Like, I had people that were taking, men to prom, in the 19, 20 years old. And you didn't really say anything about it. So I remember my mom sitting down with me and she's like, well, if that's true, how does that make him any different from Jerry Lee Lewis?
Right.
Which, is discussed in the episode.
Too,
so, yeah. So, and by the way, everybody, I'm sure if you remember or don't remember, it's MJ here. So we just started talking. We just jumped right in. So,
that was my fault.
No. Look, this is a very important topic, subject and episode. So we just kind of, we're passionate. It's our passionate, side of it flowing through.
Yeah.
But all right.
Yeah. So that's MJ. I'm Tiara. And and Lindsay.
And you have Miss Songstress down there.
In the closet.
Yeah.
I'm literally trapped in the closet now. So carry on. I'll just hop back in when I'm normal.
So, I think we kind of just already introduced to you guys what this episode was all about.
Yeah. So, so before we kind of get into the show, real quick, I just wanted to mention that we have a new logo again, but this one kind of color corrected for skin tone and hair and shadowing and brought us kind of closer together, made us look more like a team than we're just kind of standing randomly out there. This is our third logo, and I really, really like it a lot. I hope you guys do too.
I love it. I loved every single one though, but
Seriously.
I love the creative eye to be able to go back and say, hey guys, I need to make a little change here and there. I am not going to even lie. When, our awesome producer said, I'm going to go ahead and make you a little darker. I was like, for what? What does he mean? how much darker? But no, he did a great job.
Well, it was he was concerned that that I was too light, which you can see in good lighting. I am very light skinned. Yeah. But it's kind of that same thing we were talking about last week with Lindsay. That with your lighting, like right now, you look much darker than what you've appeared on our screen before because you don't have the same lighting you had before. So yeah, like Dean saw kind of the slight differences that weren't coming through and decided he had to fix it because that's what he has to do.
Well, that's perfect. I like that you're being authentic, I don't want, when we, of course, undeniably blow up and we're on, or on Charlemagne's new show or his new podcast channel that he's coming out with or podcast collaboration with iHeart, whatever it may be. I speak things into existence. We don't want anybody going, oh, no, that doesn't look like him at all. So mad respect for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
let's see, where do we want to start?
Where do we want to start?
Yes.
Well, I guess Lindsay, do you want to tell us about what the episode is about?
So basically in this episode, we kind of get into, throwback, flashback, travel back in time, hop in your DeLorean. I think I was like in 6th grade when this all went down, y'all. I could be wrong. Back to the first time Robert Kelly faced trial for peeing on a child. And this Boondocks episode, I might be wrong. I think this is the one that won that's Martin Luther King. Oh, you're right. You're right until the trial ends. So we get into how the people of Woodcrest are reacting to, and I should say Chicago really, are reacting to Mr. Robert Kelly and his trial and just the various, the various points of view that people took on R. Kelly in this whole situation.
I like that you made that connection. Is it, you think it's really supposed to be like Chicago or just like a broader, conversation on all of Black America kind of at that time?
Now, I only know.
Or is Woodcrest actually supposed to be in Chicago?
I don't know if Tiara or Dean or one of you mentioned it in some of our show notes. I think it's trivia, right? It's unknown. But in this episode, Granddad says, or Ruckus asks, where are those nappy-headed children? And Granddad's like, oh, they went down to Chicago.
In the city.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. He did say that. Okay. Gotcha.
So gotcha. One thing I love about this is this is kind of the start of what we'll see throughout every episode, how they pull stuff from real life and place it in this show. This obviously 15 years ago was not the first time that R. Kelly was accused of something, considering he was arrested for bribing somebody to marry Aaliyah. And that was back in 95.
Was it 4 or 5? Yeah,
something
I think
I was.
I was
15,
somewhat.
16.
I was in high school in some grade.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I'll come out and say it. I'm old as shit. So, 42 soon.
Look young.
Look at you, beautiful
yes.
girls.
I think I'm the elder in the group here.
Oh, well, black definitely don't crack. So we're showing that right now.
Look.
I was gonna say, yeah, we look the same. But even I was figuring out my audio stuff when you guys were talking about how creepy R. Kelly was. It was maybe because I was younger, all over my head. I remember watching Surviving R. Kelly. I knew at this point, obviously, that he was a pervert. But I was just damn, oh my God, they're so right. Wow, he said that. Oh, and I remember me being in high school and I got taken out in the hall and got a talking to because we had an assignment to do an executive schedule for work. And I was like, I'm R. Kelly's personal assistant. First, we're going to go to the hotel, but you will need his room key. And my teacher was like, no,
Ooh, that teacher knew
we're
what was
not
up.
doing this.
That is the funniest shit ever.
Yes. But to me, it was all a joke. You know what I mean? And R. Kelly, even into college, Dave Chappelle.
Yes, I'm gonna
piss on you.
Trip. Funniest.
Yeah.
But I mean,
this is a joke to me.
And I think it was to most people. It was always I don't want to say that urban legend, but it was always that that rumor that hung around. And I don't know if it really came out about him bribing anybody for Aaliyah until after, Lifetime decided to put everything on blast, and then everybody paid special attention to it. That's kind of my opinion on it. Is it was so ignored and so ignored by the non-melanated part of society that all of a sudden it got put on their channel and it got a little bit of attention, then it became an issue again.
Yeah.
Then let's go ahead and bring up all, and so I have my feeling about that because you guys let it go for so long when the rest of us knew, we always knew deep down. That's just like, in Black families, you always know about a little something that goes on that you don't talk about because we don't put our business in the street.
Yep.
Well, and that actually like really kind of highlights one of the main themes, in my opinion, of this particular episode, and that's kind of that celebrity worship where it overshadows how we think of them. Because you were right about Jerry Lee Lewis. Elvis married a teenager.
Priscilla was 16?
Yeah, 15, 16, something like that. Like there are so many instances, right?
Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, Seinfeld. That's
Woody
right. I forgot about
Allen.
Seinfeld.
And it's usually an older man with a younger woman, and society is just kind of okay with that.
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen with his
whispering Woody,
stepdaughter.
And then the director who left. And then won an Oscar 5-10 years ago.
That's Woody Allen. No.
Else? No. The one who did the piano. He raped the girl in the hot tub.
Jesus.
Won a big award recently. Wow,
and I told because every time I talk about this, I say his name.
The man his wife was killed by Manson. What the fuck?
Yes. He was with Manson. Yeah.
So famous.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most famous directors of all time.
It's killing me. Okay.
We're
gonna ask Auntie Google real quick.
Roman Polanski.
There you go.
There you go.
Be quicker next time, producer. No, I'm kidding. Yes, Polanski. I mean, the man left, where he wouldn't get, extradited. And then was up for an award for, an Oscar, brought his happy ass back, went to parties where they could have easily gone and got him, and then went right back. And
people in Hollywood still support him. Like,
yes.
Big named Hollywood actors and actresses will be still like they'll hang their head in shame about not knowing what Harvey Weinstein was doing, but yet Roman Polanski, we've been hearing rape for 35 years. We don't care about that anymore.
We all knew, but even most recently, and he bounced. I mean, he went and sold all his shit and bounced off to Fiji. But Russell, oh my God, Def Jam. Why am I drawing
Russell Simmons? No.
Yeah, what's his name, babe?
Isn't it Russell Simmons?
Blake right now. Simmons. Good Lord. You definitely seem old tonight, right? We're like, what's his name? I can't remember. Yes, Russell Simmons. So he was the most recent one. I mean, he got with Kimora when Kimora was supposedly, a teen model.
Right.
But same difference. I mean, and he just left though. He was like, I've decided that America's not for me. I bet you did. Bet you did. And is living in a compound in Fiji now. So we have continuous examples of it throughout history. We have a Mary Kay Letourneau, and life just flips upside down for everybody, when it's all, but it's been happening, with men for centuries.
Every time a woman teacher is accused of sleeping with a student, it's like it's nationwide news. But I had to find out from my stepdaughter, thinking that we already knew that a teacher at her school was being charged with sleeping with a student.
Oh my God!
And I don't remember that ever being on the news locally. So
and see, they try to keep it under.
That was just a couple of years ago.
I mean, and I'm not saying there is excuse for any female teachers, but some of these boys be looking like grown ass men. Don't let them be 17, 18. Don't let them play the sport. And I'm not saying it's excuses at all. Not saying that at all.
They're all 12.
Flip side of what we were saying last week, some of these young women, young girls look like full women, so it's like there needs to be
the victim in this episode where Riley's like, she ain't little. Yeah, she was 14. That is little. Whether you think that is little or not, that was little.
Yeah.
He was so funny. Riley had some gems in this episode, let me tell you. Some gems. But yes, I think we're kind of all kind of feel the same. It's kind of a tough situation because you do have your beliefs of, certain things, and where there were definitely, you can point the finger at media or white America, or, you can point it at, Black America for our beliefs and keeping things on the under. But there's just so much that goes into it. And, why he is in jail getting beat up and stabbed with a pen now. It's, it's a culmination of all those things. So it's kind of like, for me, it's kind of a tumultuous and kind of sensitive situation for me to be completely honest about, but that's why I'm here, and I'm an Aries. And so if I lied, y'all gonna be like, "Ooh, girl, we had to edit out your whole section because you could tell that you weren't telling the truth." But yeah, so we could always just start right at the beginning, where the
go for it.
I feel like the hypocrisy kind of starts.
Yeah.
And that's in the very beginning where, Granddad and the boys are kind of lounging around in the living room. Granddad is flipping through the news. And I believe that this is actually kind of my quote that I wanted to talk about in a little detail, is first brought up, and that's of the newscast. We're talking about Mr. Kelly. So we're going to
points this evening. It seems like the hip-hop community is trading in their gold chains for gold showers. Hip-hop singer R. Kelly is on trial again this week for sharing some of his liquid bling with yet another underage girl. Some advice for Mr. Kelly: next time, use a golden shower curtain and keep your golden showers to yourself.
So I immediately had to press pause because I didn't know how I felt. My first thing was like, there's no such thing as a hip hop R&B singer. Like, you're putting two different genres together and making it where it's like just kind of just overshadowing and putting every Black artist, I want to say, in that hip hop, category.
Yeah.
And the reason why I felt some type of way about it is because, of course, they, back then, and now I don't think they, the idea is the same, but back then it was like hip hop is also gangster rap. You know what I'm saying? And it was one of the same. And so there were so many bad things that were affiliated. Yeah. Now, you could tell immediately from the gold chains for golden showers. So then you are automatically, once again, stereotyping, people that are involved in it. So that is like something that I was just like, okay, that irked me. And then the fact that he just kept saying, the golden, like I said, the golden chains for the golden showers, or just kept referring to the golden aspect of it. So you are having such a larger conversation without saying it. You're throwing so many subs, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I get onto it, where the media has such a huge responsibility in the way that stories are told, and then molding the ideas of middle America, or like I like to say, the non-melanated parts of our society. And then the rest of us, we don't go to that for our news. You know what I'm saying? We go to BET. We go to now Shade Room, which stop. But people did, you know what I'm saying? Find something a little bit better. But yeah, so did you ladies kind of pick up on that as well? Or is that?
Oh, yeah. Media pushing salacious information. When I was in high school, I actually thought for a moment, thank God I didn't do it because it was pretty quick after that everything went kaput, but I wanted to be a print journalist. I wanted to work in newspapers.
So did I.
I loved all of it. But obviously that didn't come to fruition, but I'm okay with that now. But I remember,
look, you're still in media, just in her own way.
A little bit.
I remember my dad telling me they don't make any money because I wanted to be on like the local news, and I was like, well, why would you hurt my heart? Like, you should be proud of it. They don't make any money, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, the big thing that I remember, and she said this kind of this is something that's going to disgust you, and if you can't get past it, you're not going to survive in journalism. And it was, if it bleeds, it leads. And I know that quote has been, all over for decades now. But back then, like, that was when Jerry Springer was just starting, and Johnny Carson was going off the air. It was an end of an era for like the Carson show, and it was starting to become more gossip,
Jenny Jones
at night, and all of that stuff. All of that was happening at that same like mid to late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really feel like that's a direct correlation. Like, you've got all of these people that see this celebrity put up on a pedestal by the media, by news agencies, and whoever the fuck it is that does all that shit. But an average person, if what they consume is just that media based, they're only going to know what that particular media wants to put out. So especially back then, again, without the internet, if we're talking about the actual times, not in Boondocks 15 years ago. But in the 90s, when the real stuff was starting to ramp up the first time with R. Kelly, there wasn't the internet for people to go and find the video, which now, like, you hear something, and if you want to, and God forbid you do, but if you wanted to, you could pretty much find anything out there.
Right away. Right away.
And I think, a funny thing about that, actually, is back then, I remember one of the big things that a lot of people said was, there's ignorant people because there's no way to get this information to them. And now I look at how we are, where we have all access to any information we could possibly want. I feel like we're dumber than we were 30 years ago.
And I think it's because of the way that we obtain it. Because, you're on your phones consistently. There's a new documentary or a special on Netflix about social media and the aspect of it. And it's kind of scary. Like, just watching the trailer, I'm like, oh God, that is true. Like, I'm one of those. And then finding out how much information they keep on us is crazy. But that's a whole nother thing. But, it's I like that you say that, because we didn't have the access to it. And it kind of lends to the point of how in the Black community, we selectively chose what stories we want to highlight it, because where we went for that information, Essence, Ebony, BET, it was talked about, but it wasn't talked about the way that it is now, or there was no surviving R. Kelly.
Like, it would be National Enquirer that somebody's accusing Bill Cosby of being inappropriate, and everyone's like, it's Bill Cosby. Come on. And
now I'll chime in here, because y'all know I came up with Hood. That tape was around. I never saw it. I was young. I had, older brothers and sisters who were like, hell no. But I remember friends coming around and people being like, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Oh, I have the DVD, on their backpacks, or DVD,
Blu-rays and everything.
You put in the computer.
You buy for $5-10. I mean,
that shit was around. I just never.
I'll admit, we saw it. I will admit, I could not tell if it was R. Kelly or Aaron Hall or, no, I'm serious, another Black man, legit. I'm not legit. You couldn't tell. And I had the same, copy that everybody else had, because it was made off of a copy. Which kind of lends into my next point, when it was saying the tape, is available for immediately for all for download. I thought that was crazy that they were saying back then, oh, you want to see it? You could find it anywhere. And it was very true. When else does that happen? I mean, you had Tommy Lee and Pam. You had that released.
And
you
Kim
had
Kardashian
Paris.
And Ray J.
Yeah, look, Ray J and Kim
right
now.
Around this time too. That was the rise of internet porn, really, and celebrity internet porn.
And that one shouldn't have been in the category, but it was. And that, I think, lends to the point why so many people didn't believe it, because, like I said, the tape wasn't that great. It was grainy. You couldn't really tell. And then also it had that kind of allure of being an internet sex tape. That's a great point. So I think that's kind of linked to why people were like, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this way and kind of ignore it. But girl, Lindsay, I got you there. It definitely was made. You could find it if you needed to. We didn't find it until years later, we were in college. So it was some time later, but it was still around. And I think it was even easier to find, because I believe it was on the internet at that point, instead of you having to go somewhere, a swap meet or whatever, to the homeboy. Yeah.
If it was ever on the internet, it's probably out there now. If anybody who's out listening to this has actually seen it in the digitized form, not that I want to see it.
Right. Don't send it to me.
I kind of want to know if it's out there, and if and I don't know if anybody's if they could, I don't know, can they fix stuff from back then to make it crisper on?
Well, you guys have seen the deep, what do they call it? The deep. Yes.
Deep fakes.
Yeah.
The deep fakes. So if somebody really wanted to.
Are you looking?
He's found it.
Y'all.
Look, we could probably put a tweet out. Does anybody have? And they'll get answered right away. Excuse me.
Let's see. Yeah,
are you looking too? I was going to say. All of a sudden, Google's in front of me. But yeah, so.
How about to catch
what I also thought was very funny is how Riley tried to sneak away and go find it once they said, and that was the news that reported, oh, it's available for download. You guys are talking about it. You're throwing all kind of subs, saying gold chains, this and that, golden showers. But then you go ahead and say, and here you go. It's available for download for everybody. So
I vaguely remember when some other terrifying viral videos went around a few years ago when the news would say, like, you can find 2 girls, 1 cup here.
Oh,
and,
girl. That.
You know, like shit like that would actually get reported on because so many people were sharing it that it became news. And that was yet another downfall of society.
Yeah.
No, not finding it? All right. Our lovely producer right now is saying, no, I can't find it right now.
Well, who knows? I mean, he may have paid to have that, like, I don't know. R. Kelly's done a lot, supposedly, allegedly, has done a lot to keep himself safe. But just looked up a good little tidbit. So the news started surfacing about the tape when he was set to perform at the beginning of this opening ceremony of the 2002 Winter Olympics. So that's when it surfaced about the video. Was at that time. And he was indicted on 21 counts of child pornography. So it was just right at that time is when the video, not everything, all the whispers, the Aaliyahs and all that came out. But right when he was getting ready to perform at the opening Olympics. And probably was getting ready to do I Believe I Can Fly. Guaranteed he was getting ready to do that.
I was just going to ask, what was popular around that time? When was In the Closet? When was Trapped in the Closet?
After, because we were out of college already. So 2005, 2006-ish. And I'm not going to lie, we watched it like 3 weeks ago. And it's still damn good. Like a month ago, it was fire. I don't care what anybody says. Fire.
I can honestly say I never saw it when it first came out. And a couple of years ago, Dean's like, no, we're going to watch this. And so we said that we watched the whole thing.
It gets silly. It gets silly. But when it first came out, everybody talked about it. It was like, I remember it was on MTV and it was like countdown to the new episode of Trapped in the Closet. And then if you caught the radio and they were playing the first like 5-10, you were in everything. Like you was riding down the street with the blasting. People would look at you and you're singing to each other. And this was, of course he had been, acquitted at this time, but that was like his first big, I want to say, project other than a little music here and there after all that kind of like calmed down and went away, and it just made him right back on top. So once again, Mr. Magruder, I'm going to start calling him King, Aaron Magruder. He was, kind of identifying something beforehand. Because as we know, towards the end of this episode, and things kind of all well and good, and without there needing to be any carry on, you kind of knew that he went on and was able to live, and still be on the top of the R&B echelon. So once again, he did a great job at kind of, being like I said, a psychic. I really think the man.
I believe that. I mean, starting off this episode with Bobby and Whitney, and then mentioning the OJ trial, the Kobe trial, like all of these big black celebrity, murder and rape trials that were going on right about all the same time. And this is obviously before Whitney died or Kobe. Well, Kobe just died this year.
I didn't know how to take it when he said it. Like I was just like, oh, that's right. Like anytime I hear it, it's just a blow.
And there's a couple of jokes at his expense in this
He
episode.
did. I wonder if he feels some way about that now, being that he's passed.
That is a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean.
I'll comment here at this part because I know, and I got in a lot of arguments when Kobe died. Listen, y'all, and I know a lot of other family members, black friends, everything have argued with me, white friends, people at work, because I'm like, listen, y'all, I'm not saying that Kobe Bryant was a shitty person, but Kobe Bryant said himself that, he might have committed sexual assault. So, and this is kind of like my whole thing with O.J. Simpson, with this episode. With Kobe, there was another one in there I'm forgetting, but we always do this thing of Bill Cosby. People will go in with you about Bill Cosby. Right up
until he was finally convicted, people were going head to head on that shit.
And if you don't kind of tiptoe around Twitter, people will still argue with you about him. And I say listen, y'all need to stop. And this is it's hard to like separate all of this and have one discussion at the same time. Kind of this identity politics kind of thing, but here it's now referring to race, especially when we think about O.J. Simpson, right? Like, I was very young when O.J. Simpson went down, but, you know, like a lot of my family, I remember everyone like cheering on O.J. and yeah, like, of course he didn't do it and da-da-da-da-da. And now the vibe is very different even among Black people. It's kind of like, yeah, that dude did that shit. He's fucked up for it. But like, because we live in this America where, you know, if R. Kelly might have peed on this girl, but America will pee on you if he's guilty. Like,
so there's,
that's the vibe. Go ahead. Yeah.
There's two different ways that works right there. You've got the Black community that is so invested in one of their own being rich and famous and like a role model that they can't see the bad things that they do. But you also have like the capitalistic media society where they want to boost up anybody and you know, if this person's making money, we're going to do our best to make sure this person is out there and, you know, oh, they're talking about him because he was acquitted of rape. Well, we're definitely going to like hype up his new album. And so you've kind of got that, you know, the Black community won't acknowledge, and you've got the people in charge of our entertainment telling us who we should believe.
Totally agree. But I even feel like Black people see it. It's not like they're blind to it. It's like they say, we're not going to acknowledge this, y'all. We're going to stick together because we're not going to give another one of us over to this system.
And that's the larger, and right now in 2020, that's a larger, you know, that's a larger point to be made. Not excusing anything, and I hope that those two sheriffs are okay. But now that the fact that they're saying that shooter was a Black man, why do you think, what's his reasoning for why he did it? I still need to see proof that it was a Black man, because to me, I just said right away, he don't run like, I'm sorry to say this, but I was like, he didn't run like a Black dude. He did, I don't know, just his stance and everything. But
well, I think it's not just about it being the Black dude, though. When it comes to celebrity, I think that's a whole different thing. Like, I don't want some random Black person to be stopped on the street and then essentially murdered for just being Black. But that's not going to happen to O.J. Simpson. That's not going to happen to R. Kelly. That's not going to happen to anybody with money, really. Like, every once in a while, you get a celebrity that's roughed up, and that makes the national news, and everyone's all apologetic, and, oh, you know, maybe there is systemic racism for like a minute, and then they go back to, oh, you know, which Black guy can be almost as good as the rich white guy, but everybody else is. So there's two different systems. So like, when I don't want to see anybody go to prison, because fucking prison is hell, and it's like, it's not set up for rehabilitation or making anything better. It's just for housing and for slavery, essentially.
Yeah.
So, but that's not going to happen. If R. Kelly had been convicted, or he has been now, right?
He's still, I mean, he's just
still,
the trial hasn't happened yet. He's just, he's
right.
He's convicted through public media, public media opinion.
Even if he's not still like super rich, which I don't think he is anymore, but because of his celebrity level, he's not going to have that same experience in prison. Unless,
I don't know, because if
somebody
that
goes
was the case, then he probably wouldn't have gotten beat up and stabbed with a pin recently. I think right now he's being treated just as any other pedophile. And they're turning the other head, and that guard easily let that dude in, or and he was proud. They caught the guy who did it. Like, they knew who did it. He was proud. He like posed for the picture and shit. Like, hey, he was like, he was okay, and because that's going to get him clout, he got paid or got something for it. So he's definitely being treated the same. Now, Weinstein and Cosby, they have a little more money.
Yeah.
They won't be, but you have to take their age into it as well. And that kind of, that plays into it. And I'm someone who still, I have no problem. And we still quote the Cosby Show. I still think that some of the values and the virtues and stuff that were taught through those episodes are definitely something that I want my boys to know about. I want them to know about, the episode when they sang for their grandparents. I want them to know about the episode where, they tricked Vanessa because she had been drunk, and they made it seem like, Rudy was drinking. I want them to know about the episode that Theo had the house party and they took his ass to, he was going to take him to the jail, but they were like, we don't want him. Took him to the army. Army was like, we don't want him. And then he finally just found some place that he could do some community service. Like, those things to me are are some of the foundations that my husband and I grew up on. That allows us to make us good parents now, and allows us to be able to make that connection between being a Black family in America, and that, yeah, you can be like them. I mean, their music and clothes were just horrible, but that was it. But you know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's some charm in the Cosby sweater.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he had some sweaters, and those are expensive ass sweaters, though.
Right?
Coogee, people would talk shit, and those are not cheap sweaters. But just, I have no problem. It's on, the only channel that it's still on right now is Amazon Prime, and we have our, Cosby Show marathons, and that's okay for me, because I think that I can teach my kids the difference between who he is as a person, besides who he is as, he's Cliff Huxtable. Same difference with, R. Kelly. I'm sorry, 12 play will always knock. I don't care what you say. Like, you remind me of my Jeep, but I'm able to make the difference between who the genius that he really is in music, and the man can't read a lick, but he was able to create just a whole discography of music that, to this day, I mean, this weekend there was a Black wedding, and they were definitely stepping in the name of love, for sure. So you're able to make that distinction, and if media, and once again I say it, non-melanated America, if they're able to make that distinction as well, then it wouldn't be the way that it's been. We'd probably be talking about R. Kelly up until maybe 2003 at this point, if it had been taken care of back then. You know what I'm saying? If everything else hadn't been involved. I will give it to you, T, and say that I definitely think that his celebrity added to it in 2002. That helped.
I definitely would agree with you there. I think at this point, he's burned every bridge that he possibly had. Yeah. And so that was kind of a part of it too. And I should have definitely clarified that, because that is absolutely true. Whereas Weinstein and Cosby are going to jail with their millions intact.
Yes. And Weinstein, I mean, he definitely tried to play it, didn't he? He thought he was getting away. The whole, I'm walking spry, and the next day I have a walker and I'm shaking it. I'm like,
right?
Man, get out of here.
I'm so old. That's why I kind of made that like when you were, or when someone was saying about, well, they're old. Yeah, well, fuck them. I don't care. The Golden State Killer is ancient, and I want him in prison just as much as I want fucking Bill Cosby. Yeah. Because I don't care if you're in your 80s. If you did shit like that, you need to fucking pay for it somehow.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how old he got? Because, that's here in Sacramento. That's here in the area. So how old he got, like, overnight. Like, they found him, and then 7 days later, he was like he was senile all of a sudden. I was like, wow, that's okay. Not saying jail's not rough, but 7 days did not do that to you. And, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. But jumping back into the episode. See, guys, this is where this could take us all over the place. But I think we, jumping into the, the actual trial, what I found very interesting is, if you guys recall on the Lifetime special, there was a young girl who came out and said, well, I used to skip school to go to the courthouse and to watch it. And, when they first start, looking over the crowd that's there in the first couple of minutes of that scene, you're seeing young girls that are there with T-shirts on. You're seeing that. So once again, either I'm going to say King Psychic Magruder, either he saw that going on at that time, or he just, once again, was able to tell what a kind of broader, bring a broader conversation to it. Did you guys kind of identify like the different groups? Oh, yeah. People that were there?
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that just kind of what you were saying, one of the things that I absolutely loved, one particular phrase was when Huey was confronting Tom.
Yes.
And basically, like, you really underestimate how much the Black people love R. Kelly. Like, that is so fucking true.
Yes.
He's like, I've got the truth on my side. I've got the law on my side. I've got video evidence where he says his goddamn social security number on camera.
Yes. Yeah.
Not guilty.
Hi. Yes. This is Mr. Kelly. Yes. My social is. Yeah. Seriously, though.
But have a blessed day. But here's where I'll bring all of that full circle, because I feel like, and this is where I was kind of going to go with the whole thing, like everything you were just saying about Bill Cosby and still respecting those values, or everything you were saying, T, about R. Kelly being a celebrity and having some leverage. It is two different systems, right? Two different justice systems, two different worlds. R. Kelly was obviously guilty. It's just that and please forgive me if I'm speaking in generalizations. I don't want to offend anyone. It's just that, listen, the man, let's put it that way, the man did not care at that time. They don't care about R. Kelly. Yeah, black people love him. Great. We don't give a fuck. He's peeing on little black girls. Move on.
We don't give
next,
a fuck
whatever.
Black girls
I was going to say, most importantly, they didn't care about the little black girl who still to this day comes out and says, I don't know what you're talking about, as well as her family. So that, that played into it. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I heard that she was kind of like given to him even after that trial. She was still with him. But, so that's kind of like the thing there. They just didn't care at that time. And same thing with like Bill Cosby had secrets and whispers around him always as well. Janice Dickinson from Top Model always out there like talking shit about him and stuff. Right. They didn't care. Okay, he's not too big. But it's then like something sort of happens and then suddenly the man gives a shit. Like wasn't Bill Cosby talking about buying NBC? Yep. Cut him. And F Bill Cosby, F him right into the ground. Same with R. Kelly. Like, now I don't really know about R. Kelly. I think the story was picked up by the Huffington Post and it just kind of got too big for them to ignore anymore. And there was tax evasion involved and trafficking across state lines. So the man said, you know what? Well, you can't do that, Mr. Black Man. You violated some rules. You should have stuck to peeing on little black girls and you would have been fine. So it became an issue. And I even think in Surviving R. Kelly's brother said something like there were tapes of him like doing this stuff to white girls. And his brother or one of his brothers said to him like, yo, you can't do that. So he kind of like backed off recording that shit. But my kind of thing is like,
he would have been found and hung and dug under the entire prison
years ago
if they would have found a little white girl, a little Melissa.
Absolutely.
You know, who said that, she, you know, and who could have been doing it willingly. And, you know, hand it to him. But if it would have been a white, it would have, no. We wouldn't even be talking, we wouldn't know who R. Kelly is.
Exactly.
So about somebody completely
different. What you're saying. It would have been done in 2002 or whatever, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But I just think, like, as Black people, you don't have to back R. Kelly because you don't want to give him over to this unjust system. You don't. You can still say, yo, the American justice system is fucked up. It's unfair. It's unequal. It's totally different. But fuck R. Kelly. Yeah. You can have both. You can say the same thing about Bill Cosby. You can say he's a rapist, he drugged women, he's a piece of shit, but he's funny as fuck. You can do both. Like, you don't have to just, you know, pick an identity and stick with it. I understand why we do. Many of us do, but you don't have to.
Yes, because we live in a Twitter, or, you know, Black people. Twitter world where if you say the wrong thing, you're going to have one side here and one side there. Don't share your opinion. I remember growing up, my mom said, these are things you don't talk about. The money you make, politics, and religion. Those are things that unless you're ready to get into it about, you don't talk about, you know, especially with those that you don't know well. So we need to carry that on to social media and everything else as well. If you're not really ready to stand up for your view and be steadfast in it, then don't say it. You know, you don't have to choose.
I'm here for it.
You don't have to pick a side to, you know, be cool or to feel like you're accepted or to not lose followers or whatever the bullshit reason you're doing it for.
Just to clarify, you're not saying, you know, don't put your opinion out there, but you're saying don't just pick a side.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that because I feel like, for example, Lindsay, I follow a lot of the stuff that you do where you're just like, look at this asshole. And I called out this guy and this is something that just happened. And I'm like, fuck, I wish I had the ability to stand up to people like that. I don't. But that's just me. I have that empathy for the broken kid. I don't have that power for myself. But I also watch Dean spend hours a day yelling at white supremacists on Twitter. And like, he'll start telling me about something and I'll just be like, nope.
Stop right there.
I can't do that. I cannot do that. I don't like.
I try not to. I always say I got time.
Yes.
If I have time that day, then we'll go into it. But like when the election first happened, me and my husband would get into this a lot because I would spend hours arguing with Trump supporters who were family and friends and all this kind of shit. Just, I mean, from the time I got home from work till bedtime arguing. And my husband's like, yo, why don't you volunteer to get people registered to vote? Why don't you do something productive, which is more like what you're doing with your energy? But listen, sometimes the fight has to be had. And I feel like, hey, when you're called to do it, just do it.
Sometimes, and like I got to say, you are taking me there, huh? That's what we want to do today?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I got time.
Yeah, right? I feel like, you know, other than the fact that some of these people are just pure idiots, but most people have the ability and the radar to go, maybe I shouldn't have said that or gone that far. If you don't,
right,
be prepared for what the hell I'm going to have to say. And I don't lose. I'm not going to stop. I will go there. And that's what I'm saying. Like, and if you are not steadfast and resolute in what you have to say and okay to stand up for what you have to say, then just don't do it. Or just don't put your energy or give that time into anybody as well. If that's, if that's something that takes a lot out of you, because sometimes it does. And it can affect the rest of your week because, you said 17 words to an idiot. So I definitely agree with you on that. We need to be okay with, like I said, making that deciphering decision, to be able to say, this is who they are. I love them as an artist, and this is the shitty things that they've done, and can't do anything about that,
Yep.
But yeah, it's definitely tough sometimes because I know I feel a larger obligation because I don't want to see another Black man once again given to the justice system or given to that horrible legal system. So.
And on a whim, like I said, R. Kelly's good until we decide, let's go after R. Kelly. Bill Cosby, like, how did he get away with it till he was...
Everybody knew about it.
He didn't give a fuck until they did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same.
I get it, but...
So, okay, so before we, spend an entire hour just talking about one aspect of the show,
right.
I did want to kind of go into the other, in my opinion, big theme that we saw both in the courtroom and in Ruckus. And that was kind of the two sides to the Black community, where you've got the woman outside the courthouse who's saying, fuck those littered ass uppity niggas. And like, I can't tell you how many times I was called uppity just because I liked to read. Like, that was somehow a bad thing. And this is from other Black people. And like, somehow in our community, it has broken off into intelligence being revered and intelligence being ignored intentionally. And that really worries me. That's one of the things probably about the Black community that worries me the most, is that we see ourselves so negatively that we prop it up. Are you waiting for me? Is it my turn? Yeah, we could do that. So my clip. Let's go ahead and play my clip.
Ruckus, how could you possibly love white people so much?
It's easy. Have you ever looked at them? White man just a joy to be around. They smell like lemon juice and pledge furniture cleaner. And look at them. They gave us discipline, jobs, put structure in our lives, took us out the jungle. And what we do to show our appreciation? We march up and down the street. We vote. Carry on. Ingrates.
So.
We vote. How dare we?
We march up and down the street. So that right there to me is a really great example of part of the Black community that I grew up with. You need to be thankful for everything that you've gotten, that our ancestors brought us here, and da-da-da-da-da. And, you're no longer a slave, so don't act like one. And, the best thing that you could be...
Pull up your pants.
Right. The best thing you could be is like that white man over there. And, that's such a heavy thing to put on the next generation, essentially.
Yeah.
When I see Ruckus on the screen, I don't think of any one person in particular, but I've got a couple of uncles that wrap them together and they are Ruckus. And, I've met other Black people over the years that very much had that same mentality. And you see a lot of that in Black Republicans, in particular, who are still to this day Republicans. I would say that maybe they were kind of towing the line a little bit before that, but now if they are still like supporting our current resident in chief, then they are absolutely Ruckus to me.
Yeah, like the Attorney General, is that who is of the state where Breonna Taylor is? He's like Attorney General, or he's in some position there. And when people were protesting, they walked in, were walking to, either his house or the mayor's house. And that's where those two people came out and stood with guns and whatnot. So him, and I believe he spoke at the Republican National Convention. But it reminds me of just a younger Ruckus. I mean, he has the same horrible hairline. Or non-existent
like Ruckus
hairline
on that jury.
Ruckus does.
Ruckus sitting on that jury. Hang that nigga. That is what I see with them. Oh no, he's not gonna go along to get along. So therefore,
punish him.
So
yeah, that's a great point because there are so many individuals, and
it's that internalized racism again. It's like we've our generation and hopefully the generations that we are raising are not going to keep those thoughts anymore. Like I've spent the last probably 10 years shaking off my entire childhood because I had to unlearn so much about who I thought that I was. And I don't know. I feel like I'm seeing more and more people in like their 30s and 40s starting to kind of like crawl out of that negativity toward our own people. And, kids my stepdaughter's age are like loud and queer and brown and beautiful. And like everybody's going to be tan and gay, according to them. I love it. I hope more of that happens.
I'll tie it back to Bill Cosby, though, or even like how I just said, pull up. I feel like it still exists. It just exists subtly. Yeah. Like there's a lot of jokes people make. It'll be your friends, your fam, black, white, Asian, whatever, making jokes about ghetto names, hood names. To me, that is racist. Oh, yeah. Like what the fuck do you care? Oh my God, was her name LaQuisha? Yeah, so what?
Joke,
like that's some racist shit.
The old joke, Lamangelo and Orangelo.
Yeah.
Like I've said that joke. I laughed my ass off saying that joke, but like looking back on it, I'm like, holy fuck, that's racist.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to act like, oh my God, on my soapbox either. Yeah, we laugh at hood shit. It's like at the beginning, I think Huey says like, Black people laugh at crazy shit other Black people do, but we don't want to do it, around other people. But I do be side-eyeing the fuck out of people when they do things like this around me. Or like pull up, why does he wear his pants like that? Why the fuck do you care? Is this man's boxer showing affecting your day? It's hood culture. You don't know shit about hood culture. Mind your fucking business. I'm not saying I support it. I'm not saying I would encourage my children to walk around with their pants down. But I'm also not going to sit up here and judge anybody who fucking does. Like, I don't know. That shit bugs me. I feel like
the judging aspect I definitely get because we judge and we worry about other people too much. When it comes from a place, and this is where I come from, a place of we're never going to be seen as better, and we can't do better if we keep doing things that have held us down or that we are judged or stereotyped about. So when I go to the 7-Eleven across the street, I don't want to see somebody that is a grown ass man that has a child, but you can barely walk 2 feet without walking like so wide like this, like you're in an old Western because you're trying to keep your pants up. Like I just feel like there's a place and a time for it. So in order for us to, that's where it's coming from me, is that it's like in order for us to do better, know better, go ahead and be better, there are little things that we can do, but we need to do, I feel, when we're representing ourselves in the best manner possible. So that's where I come from for myself when I see something like that, or when I hear a name or something like that. Let's be honest, computers and even people, they look for names like LaQuisha. And what do? They throw them to the side. So, and that LaQuisha could be the graduate, the head graduate, the valedictorian, the everything of Yale, and could have done great things and volunteered. But they will never know that because of immediately what their name is identified as or what it's seen as. So I just feel like if we stop
doing that, though, we're giving in to white supremacy. If we stop doing the things that define our culture, which in reality, those jokes are based in reality. Our names are clever. Our names are beautiful. And our names come from some place that was not colonized. And I feel like if we changed our names from LaQuisha to Laura, that takes away a part of our history.
So use your middle name. I'm not saying that we don't need. Go ahead and name your child LaQuisha. Go ahead and do that. Somebody could easily say that my real name is, and I've heard it, is whitewashed. And it's like, okay, well, if that's what you want to say, I think that represents who I am completely. Like that's just who I am. But in order for us to move forward, there are going to be some things, and we've always done it, that we're going to have to assimilate with. I'm not saying change who you are. Be LaQuisha every other day of the week. Be LaQuisha. Go by that name once upon you get the job. But if that's hindering us, then there's some things that we have to do so that we can get a foot in the door to then change it, where it won't be something that anybody else or none of the rest of our generations has to assimilate to or have to change towards. So
I think that changing it does not need assimilating in the first place, though. Like, when it comes to names, at least, I feel like the reason why they've been turned into jokes is because white people don't want to take the time to learn how to say them. And I feel like there are way more than white people in this world. And if they're not willing to learn the name of another person, like, you can fucking learn how to say names in Gaelic because the white guy down the street is named, or the white girl is named Eilish, which is not spelled anything like that, by the way, or Aoife. And you can say that. You learn how to say that. There's 17 vowels in certain white people's names, but you can figure out how to say that. But you can't say a name that has more syllables than 2 when it comes to a black person. And
well,
I see
when
this
you
in
say
teachers.
something named that's cultural, that's a little bit different. Or
No, I'm not even just talking about cultural. I'm talking about in general. And I say this as a teacher. I see this all the time. I can't say your name. What can I call you? No, you're going to learn how to say my fucking name. And I say that as somebody who doesn't have a difficult name, but always had it butchered as a kid. Nobody ever wanted to call me by my name.
Well, I'm saying
because
as somebody
it wasn't
that spent 15 years in corporate sales and corporate marketing, at least in my experience, I did not see anybody else that was like me with the name LaQuisha.
I know, and that's the problem of the business.
It is a problem,
not the
but
problem
I
of
saw
the name.
LaQuishas that interviewed and really wanted the job. And that
that's
probably
the
could have
problem
come
with
in
the
there and
business,
kicked
not
ass.
the problem with the name.
But in any manner, that same
That's
LaQuisha would have said,
racism.
maybe I should have gone by my middle name. It's just something that's being identified. I mean, like I said, that's just the way that I feel. In order for us to move forward, these are little things we assimilate, and we
understand that.
and we cave into a lot, and that makes us stronger people. And that's something that we've always done.
I would agree.
So I just feel like in that
disagree
instant,
with that.
That's my opinion on it. My husband's a teacher. He deals with the same exact thing, but he also calls them sir, whatever their last name is. So their first name could be 117 characters, but he's trying to teach them to have self-respect. So in his situation,
so how is it not disrespectful to say that your name is too black and you should change it?
I'm not saying that that's what anybody says, but and that's not what the computer system is saying. That's not what, the HR person is saying, but they're also saying, well, what does this exactly say, about who you are right away? And it could be LaQuisha, it could be Maribel, it could be Thwan, which means that they may be of Asian descent. And even more to my point, why do Asian Americans come in and change their names? Because they feel like that's the best way for them to get forward. They don't consider that as assimilation, but that's okay with them, though. That's okay with them, though.
Fine.
Right? So why is it something that we could be okay with until we move forward?
MJ, but you are basically saying they should do that instead of saying they can make the choice.
I'm saying that it's okay for them to do.
But they can keep their name.
And in my opinion, the way for us to move forward is, and that's okay for you to do. That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right. Let's move on from this one because we're not going to find equal ground on this one, and that's totally okay.
No, it totally is. I thought we were just having a conversation here. So that's
I'm just saying let's.
This is it's first episode again, right? Like these are the fights I have with my mom, right? It's the granddad, like kind of like the what was it? The cheers at the end. It's the same thing where my mom always said to me, "Stop arguing with these white people. Just do what you need to do." And that is how you make progress. And how I said that was kind of granddad's sort of note at the end of last episode. It's kind of the same thing. Like some people look at it, me and MJ or me and Tiara are like, shatter the wall. And you're saying, hey, you got to do this smart. You got to come in here. You got to play by the rules until you can change them. And we're not in a place to change them. I understand both sides. I am just too that reckless Aries in me that's like, shatter this fucking wall. And to your point, though, like people, my name is Lindsay. Everyone knows my name is fucking Lindsay. And I told this story on Twitter about a lady I used to work with who would always pretend she did not know what my name was. She would say, Lucas, Lester, Linda, we're on Skype. Or what was it? WebEx. You can see my name. And like she would do it all the time. And I just stopped responding to her. My other coworkers who were mostly white or Indian would say like, do you mean Lindsay? Are you talking to Lindsay? Oh, I think she's talking to you, Lindsay. I'd be like, oh, okay. Like we're playing this game. but she slipped up and she did that in front of one of the heads of the company one day. And he said, he just like cut the conversation. Like we're all having this big meeting and he was just like, person, I won't say her name. He was like, person, how long have you been working on this project and you don't know her name is Lindsay? Can you not read or do you not listen? I don't know. He kind of like checked her and I was like, whoa, he fucking showed up. But here's my kind of take on it. I'm not coming in this office and code switching anymore. I'm not going to be the girl in the calls that you want me to be. Hi, Jane. Let's look at your keywords today. I'm not doing this shit anymore. You had an issue with me and you tried to like kind of oppress me with your bullshit. I'm out. George Floyd died and Lindsay said, I'm out. I'm done with this shit. Now you guys can be as racist as you want in your own free time and best of luck to you. But you're both fair. You're both right. I understand both sides.
And to be absolutely honest, I would have agreed with you just a few years ago. But I also look back on my own history and saw those microaggressions where why was I always called Terry by my uncle? Why was I always called by my middle name when it was like something important? Oh, this is Rose, because Rose is so much prettier than the name that we're not sure how to pronounce it right. Or they would pronounce it wrong on purpose. And that absolutely happened to me over and over and over again. So I'm looking at it from a different point of view, but I can also see your point of view for sure. It's a point of view that I have had in the past. So it's just because it's a little more personal, I think, for me. And because we're doing this thing at my school where it's called an SEL start. So my position is SEL, social emotional learning. And because of the pandemic and remote learning, we've actually convinced the district that everybody needs it. So that's what they're doing. And one of the things we actually just did as a lesson was teaching kids that no matter what their name sounds like, not to be embarrassed by it, to teach people how to say it. And if they won't say it correctly, realize that they can say others correctly. So you can keep telling them that, no, this is my name, instead of, me being in 7th, 8th grade and being called the wrong name and just responding to it because I was tired of telling people that my name was something different. So it's different ways that people grew up. It's a conversation that's been going on for decades now. And yeah, we're not going to solve it right now, unfortunately. But so, do you guys have anything else before we move into our lovely stupid white people question? Oh, wait, we haven't done the third quit. Lindsay, your clip.
I feel like we don't even have to discuss it though. Well, I feel like we already kind of have. Like we can, but it basically, it kind of goes back. Okay, we'll play it and then we'll sum it up.
Okay.
One thing for sure though, can't blame this one on the white man. What am I saying? Of course I can.
I think that's great.
I feel like it just kind of wraps up every conversation we've had across the board, where it's just sort of like, yo, all of these systems upon systems upon systems that we had little power in creating, but we do have some power in sort of changing them. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how we choose, to change it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
All right. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Feeling good about that? All right, let's bring on our resident white man.
Hello, I'm resident white guy.
Sounds exhausted. Like
Oh boy. So I got a white people question for you guys. What do you mean there's no such thing as reverse racism? I struggle with this all the time.
They just keep getting better and better each week.
Like, you gotta love Twitter.
Well, racism is a system, right? Mm-hmm. It's a construct. It was invented. Mostly it's 2 or 3 accepted races, right? Or maybe sometimes more. White people, black people, Asians, which you could argue is more, let's say, like the original meaning of ethnic base, and Spanish people. But basically it's white and black here in America. And so since it's a system you created to keep white people at the top and black people at the bottom, you cannot reverse that system. We do not have the power to do it. And so there is no such thing as reverse racism. One example that my co-host from Trash Talking Podcast often gives is that if she calls you Karen, nothing is going to change about your day. You're going to go on. You might be upset that you were called a Karen, but you're still going to go to whatever job you earned the next day. You're still going to have your pumpkin spice latte for lunch and, drive home speeding and not get pulled over. Meanwhile, the oppressive aspects of racism, such as, the majority of like Black men being in prison or the unequal sentencing and police just murdering Black people. I mean, that kind of stuff, it's pretty impactful. Or you not getting hired because your name is LaQuisha, etc.
Yeah.
Like that shit is going to affect us a lot more than you being called Karen or me bitching about white people and generalizing, which is bad, I know, but just that's not going to affect your life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Right?
Like
two things to that point. It's funny that you mentioned the Karen. Have you guys seen the article or, the research that was done saying by the year 2023 or something like that, the name Karen is going to be extinct because nobody wants to be associated with that.
Yes.
So I think that's quite funny.
And not true, because I know people named Karen that are not going to change their name.
And I think it's just new babies. So they're being born.
Yeah.
That'll be funny if in 15 years, like in the the dictionary, what Karen is, like not a proper name. That's not going to be the definition anymore. It's going to be like what you call, a white lady who can't keep minor business.
Like Becky.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
We've been calling white women Becky since the early 90s, at least, if not earlier. No, earlier than that.
And real quick, let me add on to that question, as I think white people don't understand racism as it is. I mean, they understand it as, it's against minorities. That's it. It's just, it's not, they don't understand the power portion.
Yeah.
So I think it's like.
So yeah, systemic racism is a whole different conversation that actually I keep seeming to have with certain coworkers of mine. Because that's a concept that's really hard, and we should probably dig into that in a totally different episode. But yeah, I think one of the things that that would kind of help make it a little sense to me, that helps make it make sense, is that when it comes up, it's usually associated with conservatives, and I say that not because conservatives are necessarily white, but because of the idea that conservatives seem to have that if somebody else gets something, that means I'm not getting it. Instead of, it doesn't, advantages for one person does not mean a disadvantage for another. But what they're going to see is these Black people are getting affirmative action and getting into college where, this white person with all of the same things didn't get in because they're white. But that's not actually true. There's a finite amount of space here, and they're trying to make it so it represents the whole world, not just your world. And by letting this person have a slight advantage just because their skin is brown, what that does is lift up other people and give them opportunities. That's where the real trickle down stuff comes from.
Yeah, and it's hopefully to make the students' world much more like the world that they hopefully are going to live in. Yes. That's hopeful. And that's just crossing the fingers that that's the point of it. But it all really kind of boils down to, once again, the lack to want to acknowledge the privilege that comes along with being in the powerful group, which unfortunately we know has been built to be white America. And once you're able to admit that there is a certain privilege and then admit that there's power involved, then maybe you'll understand. It's always against a minority or a marginalized group. What I am interested in seeing is, I don't know if you guys saw the clip of the young Black lady who was on the plane, who had to inform everybody on the plane, let me tell you really why you guys are afraid. It was on a Spirit flight, actually out here out of Sacramento. This lady shocked the shit out of them. Okay, there were people on there who were like taking notes and really trying to be like, we need to review that later. I mean, she talked about why their eyes were blue, why their recessive genes, took it back. And
see, I love Spirit. $25 to go to LA.
Right, and get a show. Really? Now she got ushered off by the Sacramento police, but until that time, she spoke her truth. She said what she needed to say, and it was just super powerful because she basically let them know you do have a privilege, but that privilege is going away now that you guys are not going to be the majority a whole lot longer. The shift is changing. So the sheriffs.
That's fantastic and totally brings up something that I wanted to make sure got into this little section here. That the idea of reverse racism only seems to crop up in areas where white supremacy has been diminished, like the U.S. and South Africa. Those are the only places that tend to have the idea of reverse racism pop up.
Crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, I thought so too. Like, especially, like, I would think that you would hear that in a lot of predominantly white countries, but the fact that, like, Canada and the UK, which I know has white conservative people that are very similar to our lovely system here, but somehow they don't have it in their communities. They don't have it in their lives. The idea that they're getting less, and I have to fight for that. So
yeah, well, I think that has a lot to say with our political system. Obviously, not that theirs is perfect, but I know that they have, better. For a friend of ours that's from Australia, they don't have electoral college, right? They just have a popular vote. Is what he told us today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So you vote for your top three and go so it's just a much fairer system, and it doesn't allow for
I like
stupid
that.
mistakes of and our antiquated,
You vote for
platform.
a party, not a person.
You vote for a party, not a person. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I will admit I was a little non-sober when he told us, but I do recall at least him and hubby talking about it in detail. So that's why I could bring him in. But yeah, so definitely to your point, it has to, it's that, wow, that's a really crazy fact when you think about it. Out of all the countries and nations in this world, we're the only two that have that distinction or even have that idea,
At least the only countries that have it to such a scale that it has to be addressed over and over again.
For centuries. Yes. Wow. So I think that if anybody has that question, I think we couldn't expound on it any more than what it is. Like, we pretty much put it in plain, simple text there for you. So, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome, sir. No, I think you knew the answer to that. Yes.
All right. Well, that brings us, I think, to the end of our second episode, I guess, if we're not counting episode 0. Season 1, episode 2, Boondocks. Any final thoughts from my lovely co-hosts?
No. I mean, I think this episode, it invoked the exact conversation that is needed, and that a lot of people have had or need to have. If people haven't watched an episode in years, definitely go back and watch it and really kind of, have either a self reflection on what it means to you or what you took from it, or have a conversation, with some good friends, open some wine, or, roll up the medicine, whatever it is, and be able just to have a very adult and respectful kind of conversation about it. But yeah, I think it's I'm excited to get deep, because this is only the second episode, guys, and there's other episodes that definitely hit on on some of the topics we talked about.
There's a few coming up that I'm gonna get a little emotional about. Probably a little angry.
I think all of us do, because we all have our own story and own journey with, with racial, topics and racism and things like that. So, I think it's going to be good. It's going to be spicy. You guys aren't going to want to miss them.
I love it. All right. I hope everybody has a lovely evening, and we will talk to you next week.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I need you to get the hell up out of here.
Hey, thanks for joining us again as we make our way through the trials and tribulations of the Freeman family. We hope to see you back here again next week for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Want to know where to find us on the social medias or where to subscribe to the podcast? Just head right over to theboondockspod.com/links. Have a stupid white people question you want to leave us? Email us at hosts@theboondockspod.com or leave us a voicemail at 760-933-8636. That's 760-we3-undo. Shout out to the artists who created the intro and outro tunes. Intro, #Make a Change by KIRK. You can find KIRK on Spotify, iTunes, and Tidal. Outro, Good Times by Audio Binger. You can find Audio Binger on freemusicarchive.org and YouTube. Have a great day.